Alrighty then, boys and girls, Wowhead Economy Weekly Wrap-Up number 191, labelled the Korthite Crystal Market Crash. Yeah, how true is that? Very, very true. Firstly, we give a big shout out to Samadan. He takes the time and the effort to put this little report together for us each week, so big shout out to him. Make sure you go check out Samadan either on his YouTube channel or his Twitch channel. The links are on the article. This article is linked, by the way, in the description down below for those who are watching on YouTube, and for those who are watching live currently, it's on Wowhead, you know where it is. We do stream this live every single Monday, so make sure you head over to twitch.tv/Manthieus, hit that follow button and come say hi when we're live. Let's take a look at the table of contents though. So we have the Korthite Crystal Crash, some TSM feedback interviews, a little bit of a deep dive on how to calculate profit and loss with Trade Skill Master, some legendary investments both in and out, and then some further reading for those that want to catch up a little bit further. So let's first take a look at the Korthite Crystal price. This has been a big thing. Anybody that's into gold making will have undoubtedly been aware that Korthite Crystal prices have tanked. And this is mainly due to a bit of a blue post, a bit of an update from Blizzard themselves. Increased the amount of Korthite Crystals rewarded from the More Assault box, the Korthia Weekly box, and the Broker Daily quests. Now, it actually has resulted in almost double the amount of Korthite Crystals being generated. I think this first week, though, is a little bit of a... It's like the grenade going off. It's a little bit of an explosion, because when people realise that they can get double, sometimes if they're, put in a bit of time and effort, triple the amount of Korthite Crystals out of nowhere, while they were still selling for that high price, there was a huge incentive for people to log on to all of their alts and go do the Shaping Fate quest on their alts that maybe they haven't even touched for the last 5 weeks. And so hence, yes, guess what happened? The Korthite Crystal price, the price started to tank and the supply of them went through the roof. Still to this day, there's about 3 times as many Korthite Crystals listed on the auction house on the realms that I play on. And the price has gone from a steady 1,200 gold a piece down to 400 to 500 gold each, which is yeah, a huge drop in value. Bit of a loss for any of you guys out there that had crafted legendaries. The value of those rank 5s and 6s that you'd already got crafted, obviously has dropped like a rock. The easy solution to that is sell through them as quickly as you can, giving yourself the opportunity to restock by buying materials at the new lower rate, and then hopefully you should still be able to turn a profit there on the subsequent sales of your rank 5s and 6s. But it's meant that the price of both rank 5s and rank 6s is now far more what I would consider sensible. So your rank 4 average price for rank 4 is between sort of 20 to 40,000 gold. You can start picking up rank 5s and rank 6s for about sort of 50 to 70,000 gold now on many realms, which puts them in line with kind of what people expected the price to be. And you may find there's a lot more people on your realm that have the Soul Cinders already, but just weren't willing to spend 150, 200,000 gold upgrading their legendary. They're probably slightly more willing to spend 50, 60, 70,000 gold upgrading their legendary. So it's not all terrible, even though the prices have come down on the materials, namely the Korthite Crystals. Off the back of that, it should actually promote more people to maybe look at upgrading their legendary. So there could be some pros and cons to this. You can see the regional summary graphs though. When it kicked in big time, pretty ridiculous. So with such a high quantity spike, it was only natural for the prices to fall, and fall they have. What does this mean for the legendary market? Well, if you have a stockpile of already crafted legendaries or a bunch of crystals waiting for crafting, then the price on those has effectively halved, and profits as a result, due to the subsequent drop, has reduced as well. This in part counterbalanced with an increased number of sales. This is good to see that Samadan had the exact same theory as me. Yes, it is counterbalanced by the fact that you should, in theory, have a much easier time selling your rank 5s and 6s. Now, of course, the competitive nature of the legendary market will still be there. If anything, it might even get a little bit more competitive, as lower prices tends to attract more people to the market. But more legendaries should hopefully be selling, and that's the theory. Samadan's linked one of the videos that we put out last week, just going through this in a bit of detail. So if you want to investigate a little bit further, I touch on the fact that the Vestige of Origins is actually a catch-up mechanic for legendaries. That its intended purpose was to be a catch-up mechanic for the legendary crafting system, and now that the crystal prices are coming down, it's a catch-up system that is now a viable option for many people. You can craft rank 4s, which as we know are still relatively popular. You can start crafting rank 4s with just the rank 2 recipe, and you add a Vestige on it when the price works out right, and it gives a lot more people a much lower barrier to entry to the legendary market, which I think is somewhat needed for the masses out there, because at this point the legendary market is really a rich goblins get rich system, and there was a huge barrier to entry purely on the gold value, if nothing else, to getting into it. So it should be more open to many more of you to start having a play around with it. Let's move on then to some TSM feedback interviews. This is quite an interesting one. Gumdrops put a call out on the Reddit, actually, the WoW Economy subreddit. As part of our work towards improving the gathering and task list for the 4.12 version of Tradeschool Master, so they are working on the next version. They're looking to conduct some short interviews with some of you to get an insight and some feedback on your experience with these specific elements of Tradeschool Master. So they're interested in how you use the gathering function. I should emphasize this isn't gathering in terms of herbalism and mining. This is when you create a crafting queue within Tradeschool Master, and Tradeschool Master tries to walk you through where you should go and get those materials from, whether you should get them from your alts, whether you should get them from a guild bank, whether you should buy them off the auction house. It's that aspect of gathering. It's gathering of all of the items needed for your crafting list, and in turn how you use the task list that's built into Tradeschool Master. So each 30-minute session will cover a screen shared walkthrough of your current process using this. They're interested to see how people use it in different ways. Some general inquiry and discussion about the use of gathering and crafting, an opportunity for you to critique and comment on the current state of those modules, and if time permitting, some early look into work in progress designs that they have. So if you are interested in crafting with Tradeschool Master as a method of making gold, and you want to feel that you have some input to how the add-on is developed going forward, make sure you check this out. There's a form you can fill out just to say that, hey, yes, look, I would like to do this, I would like to help out. So make sure you go and investigate that a little bit further if you want to help the TSM team develop the add-on even further. This is a great way to get some detailed feedback from more players. So if you are an experienced TSM user, or even a fresh player to the gold-making scene, consider participating to help shape the add-on. Yeah, the important thing I should probably say about this is you don't have to be a super mega experienced goblin to help these guys out. The people that know how to use Tradeschool Master know how to use Tradeschool Master, and they just live with the quirks of the add-on. What's probably more beneficial to the TSM team is relatively novice gold makers showing the TSM devs how they go about using the add-on, whether it be the right way or the wrong way. You often learn more by seeing other people's mistakes than you do by just somebody showcasing what they know about the add-on. So yeah, all forms of gold makers, I would suggest go and take a look at this. Consider putting your name forward for participation, as it could really help the development of the add-on long term. But anyway, let's take a deep dive on the TSM profits and losses then. A regular to the gold making scene, Saigon, also goes by Paul, has been making a great series on the finer points of Trade School Master and how it works. The latest one going through how you calculate profit and loss while explaining in depth of how TSM makes its calculations. Yeah, Saigon Paul is the one responsible for the crafting series on and how to set up your Trade School Master series over on the subreddit. And this is just the next one in his mini series of how to get everything up and running. So I think Samadan has probably, yeah, this article was a long one, so he's snipped out a few things just to try and keep it relevant for this. But to understand how Trade School Master does its profit and loss, we break it down into steps. Previously talked about the steps but glossed over several important factors which will hopefully be remedied by this article. So this goes into talking about how the material costs are calculated. This is actually, there's a lot more confusion around the material costs than I believed. I didn't quite realise just how in-depth the add-on is when it comes to working out your material costs, and more importantly, I didn't realise just how many people didn't understand it. People didn't really know where the material prices were coming from, and until you learn these little basic bits and pieces, it's like everything starts to become a lot clearer when you know where the numbers are coming from. Trade School Master is ultimately an add-on that is providing you a lot of data, and the emphasis is on you understanding what that data is, where it came from, and how you can use that data to help you make more gold in the game. And if you just, install Trade School Master and just try and press go, there's lots of things that may look confusing, and material costs is definitely one of them. So let's take a little bit of a dive through. So translating the techno babble into something that is understandable. So firstly, it talks a little bit about the operations. The min operation is finding the cheapest of all the things within the parameters. So in this case, the case being this one here, which is the default material cost. This is how Trade School Master works out the cost of the materials by default. By default, it kind of works, but it is still very limited. But we'll talk about why anyway. But it goes into saying, right, well, what is DB market? How does it work? Well, it's a 14-day average, which actually favors the 3 most recent days. So it's not a completely fair 14-day average. It does mean that if the price has gone up or the price has gone down more recently, it treats that as a more valuable bit of information than if the price fluctuated a lot like a week ago. So DB market price is the go-to basic for most people. Crafting. The crafting is the sum of all of the materials that go into making that item. Can I craft this material, such as copper bars, which are then crafted from copper ores? And so it will take into consideration the value of all of these middle items, and then give you 1 gold value for how much it costs to craft an item. Vendor buy is relatively self-explanatory. It's your cost when buying materials from a vendor, if of course you can buy them from a vendor. And more importantly, and the thing I see a problem more often than not, is Trade School Master will actually price people's vendor materials using the DB market price for one simple reason: that person has never opened a vendor that sells that item, or more importantly, they haven't opened a vendor that sells that item recently, because Trade School Master has the ability to, for some reason, to forget the vendor values. Usually when there's an update, and you'll see in Trade School Master when it does the updating item cache, for some reason it has the ability to forget what the vendor prices are. Which causes a problem, right? Penumbra thread is the big one. Everybody needs penumbra thread for many different reasons, Now, by default, we know that it's 9 gold. Penumbra thread is 9 gold, but sneaky goblins out there, they post it on the auction house for like 50 gold a piece. Now, most people aren't going to buy it on the auction house, but what that does is it means that if TradeSkillMaster doesn't know the vendor price, it's going to use the market price. And then all of a sudden it's valuing your Penumbra thread at 50 gold a piece, and your crafting costs are completely spammed. So sometimes we want to try and... These are the little things within TradeSkillMaster you have to go through and fix. And there's no real simple solution to them, but until you know that, you're likely to find there being a few incorrect things with the material pricings. But yeah, vendor buy is just a slightly odd one. And then there's this convert DB market. This applies so infrequently nowadays that I almost wish they'd take it out of here. This is from back in the day where you'd like turn moats into primals, or what are the other ones? Like the different elements that you could take 10 of them and make 1 of something, and you could take that 1 of something and turn it back into 10 of them. That's the conversion. Basically, I don't think there's anything in Shadowlands. Is there anything in Shadowlands that uses that convert? I guess you could say enchanting materials to a degree. The fact that you can convert, you can shatter with enchanting, which is one conversion, sure, but there's very, very few instances where this convert is actually utilized nowadays, to the point where I'd almost recommend most people take it out of their operations. Yeah, taking your sacred shards and turning them into soul dust is probably a good example of that, but there's very, very little of them. Leather to heavy desolate to callous. I suppose maybe it is used a little bit more so than I consider. Maybe it's because I very rarely actually do that conversion myself. I just buy whichever I actually need. So yeah, maybe it's a me issue. Maybe it is actually used a little bit more so. But either way, that conversion, it's important to understand how the conversion works. So if you're taking, you could buy. It might be cheaper for you to buy desolate leather and then convert it into heavy desolate leather than it would be to just go out and buy heavy desolate leather, and that's what this convert does. It converts based on the DB market price though of those materials, which also means that it very rarely gets used, but either way it's kind of important to understand how it works. So when you've got all of that in place, it basically is saying, right, well, for any given material, what's the market price? What's the crafting price? What's the cost for me to buy it from a vendor? And what's the cost if I convert it? And then it takes the smallest of those. That's how your materials are priced by default within TradeSkillMaster. But one thing you'll notice very quickly is none of this is paying any attention to any materials that you've bought. This is the one thing that most people tend to change very quickly. Is if you buy something, if you buy a bunch of desolate leather, it would be quite important to you to value your desolate leather at what you paid for it. So this is something that people tend to change pretty quickly. The default's good, but it's only good for so long. So then it steps into the crafting cost. It's valuing the materials based on DB min buyout market value multiplied by 0.95. Oh, this is the crafting value. Sorry. Yeah. So when it comes to crafting, first it has to work out what the materials cost. What is it going to cost you to actually make that item? And then what TradeSkillMaster needs to do is decide what the value of that crafted item is. And usually it will take the minimum buyout of that item on the auction house at the time. So if you're crafting, I don't know, a Shadowghast ring, it will take the minimum buyout of that rank of Shadowghast ring at the time when trying to work out whether it's profitable for you to craft it or not. This actually is one of the least things you need to concern yourself about. This is usually a pretty sensible way of doing things. Then the value of crafting, so it takes the material prices and it adds them up and makes a crafting cost. And then eventually it will compare that crafting cost against the value that it is worked out the crafted item to be. And hey presto, out of nowhere you get a number, and in your TSM setup that number is represented as profit or loss here. So everything that we've just spoke about goes on automatically for every single item in the game behind the scenes, and what Trade Schoolmaster does is just gives you a simple number based on all of those calculations, and then you can decide whether it's worthwhile you crafting something or not. It's pretty clever, a lot's going on behind the scenes. And it's helpful to note. If you want to read the article in full, this is only snippets of the article. It's actually a lot more detailed than this. Make sure you go check out the full post that's available on Reddit. There were some legendary investments both in and out. So this is this chapter is a tale of two halves. I've connected them together as a snapshot of how incredibly lucrative and volatile the legendary market can be. First is a video series by TSN where he tracks his progress over the last 4 weeks of investing 4 million of his gold into the legendary market with the obvious aim of making the gold back. Won't spoiler the results here, but suffice to say the investment was worth it. The thumbnail kind of gives it away a little bit, but yes, it's true to say that the legendary market, if you're willing to spend a bunch of gold getting into it, can be very lucrative. But then on the flip side, somebody was explaining why they're leaving the legendary market. I hope this post helps the goblins sitting in my boat. I'm a casual goblin on a high population EU realm, having all crafting Legos at max since the start of Shadowlands. That in itself kind of takes you out of the casual goblin realm. A casual goblin probably doesn't have every single legendary maxed, but either way, sure. They've still decided to quit the legendary market, and there's some reasons why. 0 deposit costs create an endless babysitting / cancel scanning competition. I don't believe it's the 0 deposit costs. I just think it's because it's the most lucrative market in the game. That in itself, even if there was significant deposit costs, even if it cost you 10, 20 gold to list every single legendary base item, many people would still be doing it based on the fact that the potential profit you make would easily cover those costs. Eventually anyway. It's a barrier for those that do not want to cancel scan every 2 minutes. And is now reached an extreme level, including the dumping of prices. Now average profit from a rank 5 to 6 is around 3 to 5k on my realm. But if the Korthite at a minimum, but there were nuances. Honestly, 3 to 5k for a single sale is a great result in my mind. 3 to 5k is double, if not, well, that's triple what you would get by completing a calling of crafting and selling 1 item. Now obviously when you do it at scale, if you sell 10 items in an hour for 3 to 5k of profit, you've done 50,000 gold in that hour, which is more than competitive. This is where this is where people's perception of what is valuable or not differs greatly with legendaries. If you've been doing this, if you've been selling legendaries since the start, you're probably not happy with 3,000 to 5,000 gold profit on every sale, because you've probably got very used to making 20,000 gold profit on every sale. So to then all of a sudden make 3 to 5k, it seems like a massive drop in your potential profits. But 3 to 5,000 gold profit per sale for many people is the dream come true. They're used to selling potions for 3 gold profit each. If they can make 3 to 5k profit all of a sudden selling a single item, it's like the stars have aligned. So this is where people's perception is very different. Korthite was a reason why they've quit. Strong correlation in price with this unstable random pricing material. Yeah, it's become a lot more volatile, and it's basically Blizzard's fault. The market was actually relatively stable until Blizzard came in and screwed everything up. So, like, the market itself was kind of balanced. Yeah, Blizzard threw a spanner in the works there. Freezing a lot of liquid gold, quite literally millions of gold. Yes, this is true. This is the big bottleneck for people to even get into the legendary market. The simple fact that unless you have 4, 5, 6 million gold that you're willing to spend crafting items, you are going to find it very difficult to start snowballing and start really making some good gold from it. So yes, I do agree with this. It freezes up a lot of your gold. On Torin Mill now, for example, I have somewhere in the region. This is the potential profits. This isn't even the value of it, but I've got over 12 million gold tied up just in crafted legendaries right now. Now, there's some people that have never seen that amount of gold in the first place. So to just have that tied up in crafted items is a difficult thing for many people to achieve. So yeah, you have got to have a fair amount of gold to begin with, unfortunately. Number 4, if Korthite changes price quickly, the result is unknown. For some goblins like me, it looks like a loss of gold and wasting time. For example, they bought a stack of Korthite 2 days ago for 1.6k each, craft all the Legos, put them on the auction house, whilst not babysitting, selling only 5 to 10 items over 2 days. Korthite price was then 1.4k. Lose about 3k gold on each item. I won't sell them for a higher price. We spoke about this a little bit earlier, and this is why I say if the prices on things are falling, and especially if they're falling quickly, they took the wrong approach. Like they knew. This is no shade on this person, but they took the wrong approach, and that's the reason why they lost gold. If you see that the price of Korthite crystals is dropping, you need to babysit those crafted items, and to only sell 5 to 10 items in 2 days, I hate to say it, is kind of their fault, because they chose to not babysit the auctions. If they had babysit the auctions and sold 30 to 40 items in that 2-day period, they wouldn't have seen these dramatic losses. So this isn't really the fault of the market. This is more of the fault of that they wanted to casually make 100,000 gold a day, but the material prices was falling, and yeah, you can't act like this when the prices are falling. You are inevitably going to make losses if the prices are falling. When prices are falling, you've got to sell things quickly, and you've got to do what you can to sell things quickly. And you also need to shrink the amount of inventory that you hold, because that inventory is at risk. So, yeah, this was only the result of a bad decision in my eyes. Crafting price of 249s was an economical mistake. This I 100% agree with. 100% agree with this. Blizzard done goofed with the item level 249s, or rank 5s as to what we call them. Rank 5s are just broken. They're broken in terms of the fact that they cost basically the same as a rank 6. There is almost no reason for you to upgrade to a rank 6 to a rank 5, sorry, because your rank 4 is a fraction of the price, is still plenty good enough, and there's only 1 week's difference between a rank 5 and a rank 6 in terms of soul cinders. So this is entirely Blizzard's fault. They goofed up on the rank 5. It's totally imbalanced, and people have learnt that, and so hence crafting and trying to sell rank 5s is a tough game. Trust, a real tough game. The price is 90% of a 262, and it looks irrational for most people to buy this temporary item based on the prices. Yeah, can't agree more. Rank 5s are a bit of a meme, and it's entirely Blizzard's fault, unfortunately. But it's not all that bad. The market is only suitable for the all-time cancel scan kind of goblins, but not for a casual. If you're sitting in my boat now or looking to invest money in upgrading pieces, think twice. I find many other markets more fun and more stable, like the 200, 230 blues, flipping BOEs, materials, even alchemy, inscription, transmog, etc, etc. This is almost the reason why the legendary market is the most profitable market, because it arguably has the biggest barrier to entry, because you've got to have millions of gold to get into it. Not only when you're in the legendary market, you also have to be relatively active and be willing to be competitive in that market as well. It comes down to effort. If you want to put in lots of effort, you can make lots of gold from the legendary market. If you're looking for a far more casual approach to gold making, some of the intermediate gold making methods, like your catch-up gear, like your potions, consumables, that sort of stuff, are going to be a lot less time consuming, a lot less resource intensive, and you can do at a much smaller scale and still see good results from. So yeah, this is interesting to see. Two different approaches on the legendary market. And two obviously very different results based on the approach that people took, which is quite interesting. But there we go, boys and girls. That was the Wowhead Economy Weekly Wrap-Up, episode 191. If you want to do some further reading, check out the WoW Economy subreddit or jump over onto their Discord server. And once again, big shout out to Samadan for putting this little report together for us each and every week. So if you enjoyed that, boys and girls, remember to hit the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. Consider subscribing if you're new around here. And if you want to catch this live, make sure you head over to twitch.tv/Manthieus, where we stream this live every Monday. But enjoy the rest of your day, boys and girls. I'll catch you next time. Peace.